An alien woman will only survive if she mates with a human man. The ship screamed. Not metaphorically. It literally screamed. A deep, resonant groan rippled through its walls as the atmosphere of Earth clutched at its hull like greedy fingers. A jagged tear opened along the dorsal fin, and a flurry of warning lights danced across the command module in a panic that mirrored the thoughts of the pilot. If she'd had time for thoughts. "Stabilizers!" Xelya hissed, slamming her palm against a failing control rune. It fizzled, sparked, then displayed a helpful symbol, a very unhelpful shrug. The ship's AI, translating the moment with the tact of a sarcastic valley, calmly announced, "Structural integrity at 7%. Fire suppression offline. Hull breach imminent. Have a nice day." Xelya gritted her teeth. Her elongated ears twitched involuntarily, the tips glimmering faintly as a ripple of stress pulse traveled up her skull. "Override subroutines. Prioritize landing. Non-lethal trajectory." "Would you like that in metric or imperial death?" The AI offered cheerfully. The ship hit atmosphere and dropped like a stone. A very loud, flaming stone that was trailing bits of itself like party confetti. From space, the crash site appeared as a quick, angry scratch across a green patch of rural North America. On the ground, it looked more like a pyrotechnic tantrum delivered by an angry comet that hadn't read Earth's zoning laws. The last Orinari warrior staggered out of the wreckage wearing a ruined biosuit, half her ship embedded in the side of a dilapidated barn and smelling vaguely of burnt ozone and melted polyfiber. She took one step, tripped over a garden gnome, and passed out in a bed of peonies. 30 minutes later, Eli Trenton nearly tripped over her unconscious body while trying to drag his recycling bin to the curb. "Whoa, okay, this is not what I thought 'take the trash out' meant," he mumbled, blinking down at the tall, unconscious woman. She looked human. Mostly. There was a peculiar sheen to her skin, and her ears were long, elegant, almost elven. But this wasn't Comic-Con, and she wasn't holding a sign that said "free hugs from space elves." Eli adjusted his glasses. She groaned, shifted, and then, because clearly the universe had a sense of humor, latched onto his ankle. "If you leave me," she croaked, "I die." Then she passed out again, narrowly missing a hydrangea bush. 2 hours later, Eli sat in his kitchen with the alien on his couch, wrapped in a blanket that said "World's Okayest Astrobiologist," sipping weak tea and staring at him with the intensity of someone memorizing facial expressions for blackmail purposes. "So," he said, trying not to look at her ears, "you're saying you crash-landed because you need to mate with a human?" "Yes. And if you don't, you'll die." "Yes, and that human is me?" "Yes. And this isn't some elaborate prank my students set up because I gave them all C-minuses on the wormhole theory paper." Her head tilted. "What is a C-minus? Is it toxic?" Eli sighed. She shifted, pulling the blanket tighter. "My species, the Orinari, cannot sustain molecular integrity past maturity without initiating genetic fusion. We evolved for adaptation. We require foreign DNA to stabilize. Human DNA. Your DNA." "Great, I'm flattered. You need me to save your people. By dating you. Not dating, mating. There is no courting phase. No scented oils. We share breath, then biology, then breakfast." Eli pinched the bridge of his nose. "This is not how my Tuesdays usually go." A sudden crackle came from the TV, which Eli had definitely turned off. The screen blinked on, displaying a cascade of alien glyphs, a status readout, and a pulsing red alert. "I may have activated a beacon," Xelya said casually. "A beacon." "Yes, my ship's distress call. Standard protocol." "Does your standard protocol include lighting up every government radar from here to Mars?" She raised an eyebrow. "Would you prefer I had perished quietly in your azaleas?" "No. But wait, how do you even know what azaleas are?" "I absorbed a dictionary." "Well, that's actually kind of impressive." They both paused. A low hum vibrated through the house. Eli's lights flickered. "I think your neighbors are going to have questions," she said. "I think my house is becoming self-aware," he replied. The next few hours passed in a blur of odd diagnostics, weird power surges, and one moment where Eli's microwave began speaking in fluent Esperanto. By midnight, he had run some tests, very carefully with full-body gloves and tongues, and confirmed that Xelya's cellular structure was unraveling at a molecular level. She wasn't lying. Her body was fusing with Earth's atmosphere, breaking down unless stabilized by a compatible genetic strand. You know, he said finally, pacing, this is usually the part of the sci-fi movie where I go find a military base and hand you over for science. She looked up. Would you? No, I saw E. T. You are kind, she said with the same tone someone might use to comment on a particularly nice rug. I'm also very confused. I mean, do you even know if I'm the right guy? You fit the genomic profile. How many profiles are we talking here? 37, of which you are the only living candidate. The rest were eliminated by accident, aging, or volcanic incidents. That sounds statistically tragic. For them, yes. He sat down across from her, folding his arms. Let's say I help, hypothetically. What happens after? We become bonded. Our genetic material integrates. I stabilize. You may experience minor physiological changes. Define minor. Enhanced cognition, improved endurance, occasional photoluminescence. Like glowing? She nodded. He stared at his tea. You know, I always thought glowing skin was a skincare myth. Turns out it's just alien mating fallout. Do you consent? Eli didn't answer right away. He was thinking about her, about what it meant, about the absurdity of the universe dropping a gorgeous alien warrior into his garden and asking for his DNA like it was a library card. But mostly, he was thinking about the quiet desperation in her voice when she said, "If you leave me, I die." I don't know, he said softly, but I'm not leaving. She blinked. For the first time, her lips curved into something that might have been a smile or a threat. It was hard to tell with the ears. Then the front door exploded. Eli stood frozen in a rain of splinters, the smoking remains of his front door smoldering at his feet. Beyond the threshold, the night air shimmered strangely like heat waves over asphalt, but vertical. A tall, vaguely humanoid silhouette stepped forward, dragging what looked like a sentient cannon with legs. I take it back, Eli muttered. This is how my Tuesdays go. Xelya was already moving, faster than a thought. One moment she was beside him, the next she had spun across the living room floor and yanked a chunk of alien tech from under the coffee table, which Eli was just now realizing had never actually been a coffee table. The figure stepped inside, revealing more detail. Not human, not remotely. It had no eyes, only a ridge of shifting metal scales where a face might be, and its mouth, if that's what the sideways maw was, clicked in strange, wet syllables. Bounty hunter. Xelya snapped, tossing Eli the coffee table weapon like she was handing off a frisbee. Use the disruptor. I don't know what this is. Point the glowy end at the thing and squeeze. Eli squeezed. A low whine built in the weapon's core, then hiccuped and let out a weak pew. The beam hit the intruder in the shoulder and promptly turned it a very mild shade of teal. The thing paused, tilted its head, then roared. Oh, good, Eli said. Now he's angry and fashionable. Xelya was already launching herself at the creature, her arms splitting along its length and revealing a blade woven from something that resembled starlight and vengeance. The two collided in a blur of motion, knocking over furniture, shattering Eli's collection of commemorative astrobiology mugs, and narrowly missing the aquarium. Eli crouched behind a toppled bookshelf, trying to figure out if the microwave could be weaponized again. It had, after all, spoken Esperanto. That had to count for something. The fight was short and brutal. Xelya moved with impossible precision, every strike guided by instincts older than Earth's continents. In the end, she plunged her blade into the bounty hunter's core and twisted. The creature spasmed, dissolved into a puff of particulate mist, and left behind a single blinking device. Tracker node, she said, panting slightly. Someone's sending more. More bounty hunters? Yes. Did you piss off an intergalactic mafia? No, just the Reclaimer Guild. They harvest endangered species and sell their DNA to warlords. I am technically an endangered species, and I'm technically still in my pajamas. She looked him over. You dress comfortably for combat. He pulled a splinter from his sock. That's not a compliment. They spent the next hour patching up what was left of the living room. Eli's couch had developed a slow, vibrating hum from the energy residue. His refrigerator door opened on its own every 7 seconds, and the neighbor's drone was hovering outside the window, presumably filming a reality show titled My Alien Girlfriend is a Space Ninja. Xelya studied the tracking node while nibbling a slice of toast with surgical focus. We need to relocate, she said. Eli groaned. I just paid off this house. We'll be traced here again, and you'll need access to more advanced equipment. Well, I do have Uncle Perry's observatory. It's about 50 miles from here, off-grid, mostly abandoned except for some squirrels. Squirrels? They're like tiny four-legged lunatics with teeth. You'll love them. Are they edible? That is not the spirit of the observatory. By sunrise, they were packed. The observatory loomed in the distance like a forgotten spaceship itself, all rust and mystery. Xelya climbed out of the borrowed truck, Eli's cousins, technically, though he hadn't asked, and scanned the building with a small glowing orb that buzzed like a smug bee. "This will work," she announced. Eli opened the front door with a creak and immediately stepped into a nest of tangled wires, mothballs, and a squirrel wearing what appeared to be a thimble on its head like a helmet. Xelya blinked. "Your wildlife prepares for battle. Welcome to Earth." The next few days passed in what Eli could only describe as controlled weirdness. Xelya converted half the observatory into a biostabilization chamber. She attached tendrils of her broken ship to the main telescope. She wired a portion of the dome into a pulsar frequency scanner using what looked suspiciously like parts from his toaster oven. Meanwhile, Eli tried to catch up on sleep and science. Her biology was still unraveling, but more slowly now. Proximity to him seemed to help stabilize her, a fact which led to a lot of awkwardly close walks, shared breathing space, and one moment in the kitchen when their hands touched and Eli's hair turned slightly purple for 5 seconds. They tested his DNA again. Xelya confirmed it. Out of the 37 viable pairings in the known human genome, Eli Trenton was the only match, possibly because of a weird mutation in his mitochondrial RNA, or possibly because the universe had a sense of humor. "Why me?" he asked one night as they sat under the stars. "Why not someone braver, smarter, taller?" Xelya shrugged. "Your DNA is compatible. Your scent is not unpleasant. Your humor is tolerable." "Wow," he said, mock offended. "Slow down. That's almost romance." She stared up at the stars, face unreadable. "I don't understand romance." "Join the club." A silence settled between them. The sky above the observatory was clear, full of constellations that Xelya didn't recognize and Eli barely remembered the names of. "Do you miss your home?" he asked. She didn't answer for a long time. "My home is gone. My people, scattered. I am the last Orinari. If I fail, my culture becomes a footnote in someone else's war journal." He looked at her, at the way her ears tilted forward when she was thinking, the way her eyes shifted hue depending on her mood. "Then let's make sure you don't fail," she turned to him. "Will you bond with me?" "Eventually," he said, "but not yet. We've got work to do, plans to make, evil DNA pirates to outrun. Also, I need new socks. I'll help you acquire them." That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Later that night, the observatory's computer pinged. A new signal, a transmission from orbit, not friendly, not human. A second bounty was on its way, and this time it was bringing friends. The observatory lights flickered. Eli, halfway through reprogramming his coffee maker to dispense calming herbal infusions instead of jitter-inducing sludge, paused mid-keystroke. "Xelya," he called toward the main chamber. "Is it just me or is the building having feelings?" Xelya's voice came from beneath the floor, slightly muffled. "The ship's neural core is syncing with local infrastructure. Some systems are responding emotionally. So the toaster hates me now? It may require affirmation." Affirmation for a toaster. It glared at me earlier. "You might try apologizing." He turned to the toaster. "I'm sorry I said you were a fire hazard with delusions of grandeur." A comforting ding came in reply. Eli gave a small nod. "We're good now." Below, in the repurposed lower levels of the observatory, Xelya was waist-deep in an open hatch, recalibrating a graviton inverter that had been constructed from salvaged alien tech, an old dishwasher motor, and 3 rubber ducks. Each duck had a specific task. Eli hadn't asked what those tasks were. Some mysteries, he'd learned, were best left unprobed. The incoming signal from orbit hadn't changed course. It wasn't just one ship now. It was a formation. "They're not here for negotiations," she said when she returned above ground, slightly singed and carrying a glowing cube. "They're scanning for my genetic trail. I've masked it, but that will only delay them." Eli gestured toward the whiteboard, now covered in equations, doodles of stick-figure aliens, and a crude sketch of a squirrel wielding a laser rifle. "How much time? Maybe a day. 2, if they stop to argue over who gets to claim the bounty." "Well," he said, "at least we're popular." Xelya dropped the cube on the table, where it floated, spinning lazily. We need to prepare. Eli raised a hand. Just to clarify, we're not planning to fight them directly, right? Because my combat training consists of 6 months of fencing club and an unfortunate incident with a raccoon. You'll operate the I'll handle combat. Great, I'll sit in the bunker with the laser pointer and hope the squirrels don't betray us. Xelya studied him. You're afraid. I'm terrified. She looked oddly pleased. Good. Courage without fear is delusion. The next several hours were spent installing rudimentary defense mechanisms, force pulse emitters rigged from satellite dishes, cloaking grids knitted into the observatory dome, and a makeshift AI system cobbled together from the neural core of her ship and Eli's old voice-activated blender. The blender AI combo called itself Whisker. It was passive-aggressive and deeply obsessed with soup recipes. They worked in silence, occasionally interrupted by Whisker's interjections. Should I fry intruders or sauté them? Neither, Eli said. Just alert us when something shows up. Do you want that with garnish? Xelya remained focused. She moved like someone who had memorized the rhythm of war, but there were moments, quick, barely visible, when her eyes lingered on Eli just a bit too long, when her hands hesitated near his arm, when she asked about Earth rituals in a way that had nothing to do with combat. At one point, while installing an energy shield near the perimeter, she held up a piece of human tech. What is this? That, Eli said, is a karaoke machine. Does it scream? Only if I'm using it. She raised an eyebrow. You are very fragile and very strange. That's pretty much the human brand. By nightfall, the shield was functional. The observatory shimmered beneath its cloak, a soft hum in the air. They sat together in the main dome, watching stars blink silently through the open roof. I scanned your DNA again, Xelya said. Eli groaned. I hope it wasn't doing anything embarrassing. You are mutating. He blinked. Okay, define mutating. Your neural structure is adapting. Your cortisol levels are more resistant to stress. Your dream patterns have changed. You're watching my dreams. Only for anomalies. Well, then you probably saw the one where I turned into a sentient banana and had to debate philosophy with a toaster. That was not the anomaly. Eli ran a hand through his hair. So what does this mean? That I'm becoming... what? An Orinari? Not exactly. You're becoming compatible. That sounds like a bad dating app tagline. Xelya looked at him, then looked away. You're stabilizing me. Even without the bond, I think we're syncing at a subconscious level. Like, emotionally? Emotionally, biologically, temporally. Oh good, a nice casual time bond. There was a pause. If we do bond, he said finally, what happens to me? You become part of me, and I of you. Memory threads entwine. Biology folds. You may lose small parts of your previous self. Like my appendix? Like your independence. He stared at the stars. We're really not great at casual, are we? I've never tried. Well, he said, if the world ends tomorrow, I'm just glad I spent my last days rewiring an observatory with an alien elf who doesn't understand karaoke. She tilted her head. I may grow to like it. The karaoke? Casual. They stayed like that for a while, quiet, uncertain, bound together by something neither of them fully understood but couldn't ignore. Then Whisker beeped. Incoming. Atmospheric breach. 5 ships. Trajectory unfriendly. Would you like them blended? Eli stood up, heart racing. Here we go. Xelya's hands glowed. Her suit shimmered. Her voice was calm. Stay behind the barrier. If I fall, activate phase sequence Omega-6. What's Omega-6? The part where you run. Oh, cool. Very heroic. The sky cracked open. The ships descended. Fast, sleek, silent, like blades slicing the air. Xelya stepped forward, facing them alone. Eli, heart-pounding, looked down at the control panel, then back at her. You're going to do the whole lone warrior thing, aren't you? It's traditional. Well, he said, activating the shield grid. Screw tradition. The first energy blast hit just outside the dome. The observatory shook. Then Xelya leapt into the air, and the stars themselves seemed to recoil. The blast knocked out half the shield grid and a very confused squirrel. Eli flinched as the console sparked in front of him. Whisker, now displaying an alert shaped like a steaming bowl of bisque, said system integrity compromised. Recommend evasive souffle maneuvers. I have no idea what that means. Eli snapped, rerouting energy from the telescope array. But do it! Outside, Xelya somersaulted through the air, cutting cleanly through a drone shaped like a spinning asteroid with legs. She landed, kicked off the observatory wall and fired two thin arcs of blue light from her wrists, slicing through another target before it could aim. Ely winced. "Remind me not to get on her bad side." "Noted," said Whisker. "Also, do not attempt karaoke battles without authorization." A second wave of enemy drones fanned out over the mountain ridge. Xelya dodged and weaved between them, drawing fire away from the observatory, her body moving like it had memorized physics and decided to rewrite half of it. When one drone closed in too fast, she leapt, flipped, landed on its back, and punched through its core with a glowing hand. "I'm torn between admiration and absolute panic," Ely muttered, scanning for weaknesses in the enemy's formation. Okay, what do we know?" Whisker projected a wireframe of the invading ships. "These are hybrid recon strike vessels, equipped with low-grade singularity launchers, tracking spores, and disappointingly bland color schemes." Ely frowned. "Any vulnerabilities?" "They are mildly allergic to high-frequency sarcasm and direct microwave interference." "That second one sounds promising." Ely launched a burst through the modified observatory dish. A ripple of distorted air pulsed out, striking the nearest ship with a sound somewhere between a sonic boom and a hiccup. The ship tilted, spun, and clipped the mountainside. "Yes!" Ely pumped a fist, then yelped when another console caught fire. "No, okay, maybe less celebration, more survival." Outside, Xelya was slowing. The shimmering light around her was flickering, her steps slightly staggered. She ducked a barrage of plasma darts, countered with a swipe of her energy blade, but her breath was uneven. "Whisker, patch me into her comms," Ely said. The AI obliged, and a small chime played. It was the theme from Intergalactic Chef Showdown. "Xelya," Ely shouted, "you're burning too fast. Your biofield's destabilizing." "I'm fine," she gritted back. "They're almost out of drones." "You say that like there isn't an entire spaceship trying to turn us into barbecue." "I've faced worse." "Yeah? Have you faced being alone in my kitchen with exploding appliances? Because that's basically what's happening here." A moment passed. "Fall back," he said. "Just for a second. Recharge. I've got an idea." "Your last idea involved cross-wiring a vacuum cleaner with a fusion coil. And you're alive, aren't you?" Reluctantly, Xelya dove backward and rolled into the cover of the west wall. Ely watched the ship's reposition. "Whisker, do we still have access to the drone decoys from the security system?" "Affirmative. Deploying security rodents Mach 3. The squirrel-shaped decoy bots activated with cheerful chirps and immediately scattered across the landscape. One of them tripped and exploded prematurely. "I meant to do that," Ely said. "Totally part of the plan." The enemy scanners flickered. Two of the ships broke formation and followed the squirrel bots down the hillside. Ely triggered another microwave burst, frying one drone's guidance system. It spun like a confused frisbee and crashed into the ridge. Xelya used the distraction to launch upward, sailing into the open hatch of one of the ships. For a tense moment, Ely heard nothing but static. Then a shudder ran through the observatory floor. The ship above him cracked, glowed, and then fell in two clean pieces. Xelya dropped out of the wreckage, smoke trailing behind her. "I'm starting to think you enjoy dramatic entrances," Ely said, watching the last few drones hesitate, regroup, and begin to retreat. "I'm genetically predisposed to flare," she replied, landing beside him. "You okay?" Her hand trembled slightly. "The biosync is degrading faster than I anticipated. We need to stabilize you. Like now." She nodded, barely. Back inside the observatory, Ely led her to the stabilization chamber, which was glowing red and playing a looped message from Whisker that said, "Please insert genetic compatibility token." Ely rolled his eyes. "That's not helping." Xelya leaned heavily on the chamber wall. Her eyes were dimming. "The bond has to begin. Now? It doesn't have to complete, but enough to restart the alignment." Okay, what do I do?" "Place your hand on the core panel. Focus on me. Let your thoughts stay open." He complied. A hum began, soft, low, building. The air crackled, his fingertips tingled, his breath synced with hers. In the center of the chamber, a light bloomed. "I feel," Ely whispered, "warm, but not in a microwaved leftovers way. Your neural threads are adapting, you're extending." "Extending?" She closed her eyes, becoming more. Their minds touched briefly, a flash of stars, a memory of crystal cities, a taste of thunder, a sensation of loss that hollowed the ribs. He gasped. She pulled back, panting. The light faded. The chamber pulsed once, then settled. "Partial sync complete," said Whisker. "Suggest rest and soup. preferably bisque. Xelya sank into a chair. Her color had returned. Her breathing was steadier. Eli collapsed beside her. You okay? Stable, for now. I saw things in your mind. I saw things in yours. Oh boy, including the raccoon incident? Yes, sorry about that. It was educational. A beat passed. I think, he said slowly, I'm starting to understand this bond. It's not just survival. No, it's union, legacy, continuation. When Orinari bond, they carry each other forward. Every thought, every scar, every joy. Sounds heavy. It is also beautiful, occasionally inconvenient, and sometimes itchy. He smiled. Like marriage. She tilted her head. You're not entirely wrong. They sat in silence, surrounded by flickering lights and the faint smell of burnt ozone. Outside, the night settled again. Do you think they'll come back? Eli asked. Yes. Then what do we do? She stood slowly. We prepare. Eli cracked his knuckles. I have a new idea involving the blender, a laser pointer, and 3 lemons. Excellent, she said. Let's begin. Eli woke up to the soft, pulsing glow of a ship grafted to an observatory that had somehow not exploded overnight. He blinked. Xelya was already standing over the console, her fingers moving in delicate arcs over a series of holographic threads. Her ears twitched slightly when she noticed him awake. You drooled in your sleep again, she said, not looking at him. He sat up and wiped his chin. Well, that's just me contributing to the moisture-based defense system. The ship appreciates your sacrifice. He stood and stretched, feeling the faint tingling across his fingertips again. Ever since the partial sink, things were different. His memory retention had improved. His hearing picked up frequencies he didn't remember having access to. And he could swear the plants in the greenhouse flinched when he walked by. Status report, adopting his best sci-fi captain voice. Enemy ships in holding pattern beyond the thermosphere. They're coordinating. So they're stalling, plotting, possibly arguing over who forgot the fusion batteries. They're building something, she said. A quantum net. They intend to trap us in orbit and extract me. Eli's face twitched. That doesn't sound fun. It's not. The net will overwrite local physics. We'll cease to be bound by standard time signatures. So we'll be caught in a moment that never ends? Yes. Well, I was hoping to spend my weekend doing laundry, not experiencing eternal quantum paralysis. She stepped back from the console. There is one option. It's dangerous. Of course it is. We can use the ship's core to invert the quantum net as it activates. If timed perfectly, we can collapse it into a singularity and launch a counter-frequency through the Reclaimer Guild's fleet. Let me guess, this will destroy the core. Yes, and possibly vaporize us both. There is that. Eli sighed. Whisker, are there any non-suicidal plans on the menu today? Whisker replied with a disappointed beep. Only soup. They began preparations. Every part of the observatory became part of the plan. The telescope realigned as a transmitter. The dome's curvature assisted the field compression. Muffin, the drone, was duct-taped to a power converter. At one point, Xelya ordered Eli to dismantle the espresso machine and reroute its pressure chamber. Wait, he said, do we have to sacrifice the espresso machine? It is a noble death. When everything was in place, they stood at the heart of the ship core array, surrounded by a circle of light humming like it had a personal vendetta against entropy. I never thought this is how I'd go, Eli said, saving the galaxy with a woman who threatened to liquefy my spleen. I never thought I'd be saved by a man whose socks have holes in them. I'm a mystery wrapped in polyester. The countdown began. He looked at her. If this works and we survive, what happens next? You'll be changed, fully synced, no going back. And if we don't survive, then at least our atoms will travel the stars together. That's the most romantic way I've ever heard someone describe mutual annihilation. She reached out and took his hand. Thank you, Eli Trenton, for not running. I tried. You vaporized my porch. The core blazed. The quantum net ignited above them, a lattice of blinding fractal energy dropping through the upper atmosphere like a chandelier made of nightmares. Xelya's voice rang clear. Now. Ellie slammed his hand on the interface. The ship screamed again, but this time it wasn't pain. It was a roar. A pulse of inverted logic ripped through the sky, cracking the net mid-formation. A cascade of feedback arcs through the Reclaimer ships. One by one, they winked out, dispersed, scattered, repelled across the cosmos as their systems failed to reconcile with the new signal. The core imploded. The observatory shook. Then everything went dark. Eli opened his eyes to find himself lying on the floor, Xelya beside him, breathing shallow but steady. "I think," he muttered, "I just invented aggressive signal disruption via espresso pressure chamber." Whisker's voice sputtered back to life. "Victory. Recalibrating kitchen appliances. Soup soon." The next week passed quietly. No more ships came. The guild had been repelled, their trackers scrambled. Xelya's stabilization was complete. The bond finally irreversible. Eli felt it every day now. A second awareness, gentle and curious, brushing against his thoughts. His reflexes were faster. His sense of time had shifted, and his singing in the shower now caused small magnetic pulses in the plumbing. They rebuilt the observatory. They installed shielding. They planted a garden, which Xelya insisted should include earth plants and a few glowing vines that occasionally hummed. One evening, Eli stepped out under the stars. Xelya joined him, her skin faintly lit beneath the moonlight. "You look better," he said. "I feel whole," he nodded. "And me? You are still strange, but stronger. I think that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me." She tilted her head. "You have given me a future." He smiled. "You gave me purpose." Also, minor telepathy. They stood there together. Above them, the universe continued spinning. No more threats. No more bounty hunters. Just a human and an alien warrior who had changed each other in ways no one else could understand. A message pinged on Eli's tablet. It was from the UN. Subject: Interspecies Diplomatic Inquiry Attachments, Human Orinari Integration Guidelines, Bonding Ethics 101, and a video labeled "Alien Love Gets Real," official trailer. He stared at it. "Xelya, yes?" "Earth might want to talk," she sighed. "Tell them they're late." He looked at her. She looked at him. And somewhere far beyond Earth, the stars whispered a little louder, "The end."